Okay, we are live as promised. This is Bart, and this is a live broadcast of Most People Don't But You Do podcast. We are very pleased to have an incredible guest. Want to share a little bit more about our podcast. We don't always do it live, but recently we've been having amazing success. In fact, there was one conversation a few weeks ago with Doug Barman, Senior Vice President of Conference Direct. It had gone out to 211,000 people. So we're using this platform, LinkedIn Live, to be able to spread good messages. And then, of course, it'll go out on the podcast. Today's guest is a very remarkable young lady. Her name is Giovanna Ventola. She is the founder of Rhize. We're going to get into the details of who she is and what she is doing. But I want to welcome Giovanna to the show. Welcome, Giovanna.
Thank you for having me, Bart. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a conversation. That's exactly what it is. I want our listeners to be able to understand a little bit about you. And as it is leading up to, you are a very giving person. You are helping people that need help. Tell me about growing up. Where was it? And did you have this propensity to be helping others growing up?
I grew up just north of Boston, and prior to starting Rhize, I didn't realize I had this propensity to help people until my childhood friends started saying, this is exactly what you did for us. So one of my best friends, she said this. So I'm speaking about unemployment, and I'm speaking about the job market and what we go through up against corporate America, right? It's like little people, big thing. And she said, growing up, you were always that person that stood between me and the bully. So when someone was making fun of her or picking on her, I just swooped right in and was like, this isn't going to happen. And I would use my voice to protect my best friend. And she's like, so this makes so much sense. You're kind of protecting all of these people who are struggling and need support and need help and don't need the bullies or don't need the negativity. So I guess this is just something that's been a part of me.
Yeah, it's meant to be. It is absolutely meant to be. And it's not unlike, this is, of course, about you, but I just want to share. Someone had asked me a similar question about my willingness to want to help people. And I make the statement of, I want to support the underdog, and I'm trying to be tolerant of the overdog. I don't like people that are cocky, arrogant, entitled. I don't like those type of people because they're not real. This goes back to probably second grade. I picked Betsy. I picked Betsy to be on my kickball team. One afternoon, second grade at recess, Betsy always wore a dress. She had red hair. She had pink, rosy cheeks. She was not athletic, never wore tennis shoes. But I picked Betsy first because she never got picked first. And my friends, Kenny and Eric, they were mad at me, but I picked Betsy. And I just think that that's a story right there. Pick Betsy. So I'm going to call you G, Giovanna, G. Okay, G.
Call me G.
You are picking Betsy. You are helping people, which is absolutely brilliant. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. You talk a lot about how RhizeTogether.com, Rhize got started, and it was essentially getting laid off. What was your area of expertise from a professional lens? What were you doing that sadly you ran into these situations?
Yeah, when I started I was a ballet dancer, which we can go into at some point, but I started my corporate career almost 10 years ago now, and I was in commercial real estate development. So when I got laid off, I had a pretty solid career path. And the first time I ever got laid off was in October of 2020. And that's the first time in my life I didn't have a job. So since I was 14 years old, I would have 2, 3, 4 jobs. I'm used to working. And so all of a sudden, losing a job in 2020 was very difficult with the pandemic. Was able to find work about 7 months later in the same field, got laid off again 2 years after that, and then found another job and then got laid off 90 days after that. So I had 3 layoffs in 3 years, which I call it a hat trick, but some people don't make jokes, but I like to make jokes. So yeah, actually, it's funny, kind of serendipitous. It was last year, that I got laid off for the 3rd time. So the night before Thanksgiving, 4:30 p.m. Let me put a calendar invite on your calendar. Sorry, you have to hang out with your whole family tomorrow, but you don't have a job. So very interesting day in my life.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, and just know that I'm sorry that that happened to you. Just like I shared with my friend, we started to talk about a former company that I'd worked with, got the announcement they were laying off 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And my friend, who I kind of helped to maneuver through the professional world, called me and said, "This is what's happening to me." And it makes me angry, first of all, that that happens. And it also makes me angry that often companies, I'm going to share, I'm going to spew a whole bunch of ideas, G.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
it is not always people over profit, it's profit over people.
Exactly.
They talk about this culture that they have, and then I like to examine, is the culture on paper or is it in practice, or is it both? Because who from a non-empathetic way would fire people, would lay them off, would share that the day before Thanksgiving? And it's the type of conversation that is all about, hey, look, I'm going to schedule you. What is there anything that I need to prepare for? Gee, is there anything I need to get ready? No, no, no. We're just going to have a call at 4:30 before you're going to get ready for Thanksgiving. Just, nothing to
Yep.
nothing to get prepared for. Are you sure? Are you sure? And then your heart is racing like crazy until you're on that call.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, it shouldn't have to happen that way. Let me ask you, with each of the examples of getting laid off, were they empathetic to you? Did they describe the process in a way that made you feel like I'm not redundant? My job was redundant. You follow?
No. Yes.
Okay.
The first one was a surprise. My boss did fly in for it. We did an entire day of meetings until 4:30. We toured new projects. I met new people, so I had no idea. And it was in person, right? So I would say probably the most respectful way to do it, but still stung.
Mhm.
But it was a lot of like, it's not you, it's we don't have a need for this position. Like I'm absorbing a lot of these positions, right? Okay.
Yeah.
The second one I could see kind of coming because the company was having trouble. I had known people were getting laid off.
Mhm.
That one that was like a script, right? And I felt bad for the woman that had to do it. Her and I had a good relationship, but she had to lay off a bunch of people and she literally had 15-minute increments in her calendar all day. And I think her heart was in the right place in trying, but she came on, she read me her 3-minute script and she got off and left me with HR. And I can't
Mhm.
imagine being on her side, right? Like
Right.
she's now
Yeah.
letting go all these people. That's probably
Mm.
tough in its own right. The third time was, here's 20 minutes of why you're a horrible person. And I was like, whoa.
Wow.
This is the one that I felt was like, we're trying to blame our employees.
Mhm.
And it was like 20 minutes of how awful I was. And then I was like, oh, wow, I'm probably going to have to look for a new job. Like, this doesn't sound like it's going
Yeah.
well. And then it was, and we're like letting you go. And a lot of people I spoke to after that had the same experience. So I think it was more of
Mhm.
trying to flip it on the employee.
Mhm.
But it is what it is. I don't think any, I think, and we talk about this a lot in Rhize. There has never been a like crossing of personal and professional. There has never been a mental health crossover discussion. There has never been like, how does your work affect your home life and vice versa.
Mhm.
Everything was leave your problems at the door. You come in and you work, and then you go home and you deal with your stuff at home. But when COVID hit and people were bringing work into their home, like we're all
Yeah.
virtual, you're now working at home, all the above, it changed. It changed, but nobody talked about the change. And I think, we're in a horrible job market. So getting let go like that, it, there is a fear because you're unsure. And then there's also like, I mean, sustaining your life after being laid off, hired. There's a lot more personal things attached to that. And I would have appreciated
Yeah.
more of a conversation, but
Yeah. So G, as you shared that, there was some research that I had heard about that talked about, let's say when my parents, 80, 89 years old, as an example, were growing up, that there were distinct communities. There was home, there was work, and then there was after work.
mhm,
So my father was a teacher. wake up in the morning, go and teach, great. Come home, have dinner, great. And in the evening, he would go to a bowling league with my mom. 3 separate communities. But now it's I'm calling you from a coffee shop that I like to work in. I'm actually in the stairwell. Everyone else is downstairs, so hopefully y'all can hear me okay. But it is all blended together. So if you are feeling good at work, if you're being treated well at work, that's probably going to cross over to how you're feeling at home and vice versa. So there's so many different components to it. Gee, I wanted to ask you, and I share this story, leaders don't need to make people cry. That's just my opinion. There's some great leaders that I know about. I'm going to give a shout out to one of my dear friends in the industry, John Harper. He would be able to deliver bad news and not make people cry.
Yeah.
Do you think that is possible these days with the HR people that are reading scripts? Can they still be empathetic? Can they still be kind? Can they still say, you know what? This sucks. I'm so sorry this has to happen, but our profits are down. In order to keep the company going, we have to do this. Is that doable still? And do you all in Rhize talk about that?
Yeah, I think it's doable. I think it's a little extra effort, and it's, do they want to put the effort in or not? And I understand both sides, right? I understand maybe you're too burnt out to put that extra effort in. There's also this, I do believe when you have to deliver bad news to somebody, it is easier to cut them out and you don't have to face them. I am somebody that believes if you face something head on and you have a conversation about it, in the end, it will be better. Like we talk about it in Rhize, I've asked people, how would you prefer to be laid off? And we have, and there's people that we have discussions, come to me 6 months before. You know that you're going to have to let me go 6 months before and say, listen, 6 months from now, we can't afford your salary. Yeah. I will help you. You continue to work. I will help you find somebody. I, as an employee, respect that. I would do my best work for those 6 months, understanding that we have this transparent, communication about where I'm at, if I get a new job, how they're helping me. I could handle that. I think businesses are unsure that if they do that, then I'm gonna mentally senior slide, like when you're about to graduate high school or college and you're like, I don't care, I'm not doing my work anymore. But I think as adults, I would take pride in my work. I'd want to close out the chapter at the company I was at in an appropriate way and to put my best foot forward for my next opportunity. We also talk about how it's a joke. It's always, would you rather be laid off in a mass layoff with a group or alone? And I've never been let go in a group. And a lot of the people that were laid off with 1,000 people from their company, they've created their own little community where they're like, we all got laid off from Google or from Meta or whatever. Let's all talk about it. I didn't have that. I was laid off as an individual and I call it a trickle layoff where they kind of trickle everybody out. And then I don't know who to reach out to. I don't know who got laid off. I don't know who's still there. It makes it very confusing. So you don't have this built-in community of people to talk to. And I think, honestly, businesses, and I think it comes from the top. And I think the people in the top need to treat the next level and the next level and the next level, and they need to lead by example. And I do feel horrible for the people that do let go others because they're just delivering a message from 3 levels up and they're not given the tools, and nobody cares to treat someone like a human being. And if they're just saying these are numbers on an Excel sheet, get rid of them. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah, not easy. It's not easy.
No.
They almost need mental health assistance, the people that are letting go of people, because it's going to certainly stay with them. A few things that come to mind, G. I have been on calls before when there were mass layoffs, and there was a call scheduled at 11 a.m. and there was a call scheduled at 1 p.m. And the call at 11, if you were invited, you got to keep your job. And the call at 1 p.m., you lost your job. So what do you think was happening after the call took place for the 11 a.m.ers? Everyone is calling and saying, yeah, I got my job. I got the job. I'm keeping, I'm safe. And then that made people even more anxious for those 2 hours by thinking at 1 o'clock, I'm going to be losing my job. I agree with you. I think that there are times where, business changes, but you can still make people feel okay. Leaders don't need to make people cry. Bosses don't need to make people upset. there was a term that was used during the pandemic. And honestly, gee, I had never heard this term used before for a person. They were being called redundant. You are redundant. So I did a motivational message online for as many people that needed it. I said, you are remarkable, not redundant. You are remarkable, not redundant. People need to separate that business element, that it's not about me, no matter how they delivered it. It's really not about you. Gee, it's not about the people that are listening to this. If they go through a layoff, it is really not about you. Even if they tell you that you're a bad person, look at the source. Okay, let's look at the source. Okay, so we're coming up with ideas, I think. So for our listeners, there's human professionals that are listening. There's the executive directors. There's entrepreneurs. There's billions, let's say billions of people listening right now, and will listen to this. One takeaway so far is treat people fairly with empathy. And there's something that I've been talking on as a keynote speaker an awful lot. It's about kindness. Do decency and treat people with kindness. So I think that is one great takeaway. Two, the people that sadly are losing their positions, they need to realize that it's not personal, even though it's going to feel personal. You had used the term, it stung. It stung 3 times, but it bit you, it stung. But what did you use? How did you use that feeling, G? To create, to push you to do this. Let's be honest, right? If that had not happened to you 3 times,
no,
right? Hurt a little bit the first time, second time, hurt even more, third time, yeah, it freaking stung. You used that, not fear. You used that, I don't want to say anger either. You used that feeling. How would you describe that feeling? Because you used it, G.
Desperation.
Okay.
So I was very desperate the 3rd time I got laid off, in a sense of like, I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to keep reaching out to my same network and be like, I'm back unemployed again, because then it doesn't matter how you feel or how great you did. People are looking at that like, how come she can't keep a job?
Yeah, what's wrong with her?
Yeah. And so I was like, I need to build a new network, and started doing things to make a bigger like net for myself. And my cousin, who's like young and Gen Z and really cool, she's like, just post something on TikTok, you'll meet a few people. And I'm like, okay, cool. End of January, I posted a video on TikTok with a networking email that I write, and I kind of like made a joke, and I was like, somebody posted a video and I stitched it, whatever that means. And I'm like, I'm professionally unemployed. I cannot keep a job, but this is the networking email that I use, and it works. Like, people respond. And it woke up in the morning with 80,000 views, and I had people commenting and DMing that they wanted me to forward them this email. So I did manually. Just a lot of work, by the way, forwarding an email to like, it took me a long time. But that's sort of, and then my cousin was like, listen, there's a lot of people getting laid off on TikTok right now. Whatever you said is resonating. You need to keep talking. And for me, it was creating a conversation around something that I couldn't talk to anybody else about, because my friends and family were not in that same position, and I had nobody to talk to about what I was dealing with. But people on TikTok were responding, and we were having this dialogue about what was going on. And a lot of the feedback I got was like, everything you're saying is what I think in my brain that I can't express out loud. And I always credit my ability to speak about emotions. I've been in therapy for 10 years. It's just something I've practiced. And I've learned a lot how to express emotions in a clear way without having the without showing the feeling, right? Like, I can express to you how I'm feeling, angry, sad, whatever, without yelling or crying. And I think that the feedback I kept getting constantly was like, that's my experience. You're not alone in feeling this way. I don't want to share about it. But what you're doing is you're allowing me to see that other people are going through this. And it started out as a selfish thing because I wanted to meet people to network. And I was like, okay. And I needed an accountability buddy, and kept sharing my videos. And like in February, end of February, one of the last days of February, I was like, does anyone want to be my accountability buddy? Let's try to get hired somewhere by April 1st. And I thought I would get like 10 emails and we'd have a little coffee chat group. And I woke up with hundreds of emails. And I put everyone in a Slack community. And I called it the unemployed community because I was like, well, we're all unemployed, like whatever. And then met all these people and we would have calls and we would work on our resumes. And I quickly realized, like, kind of to your point of you're not redundant, like none of these people should be defined by the word unemployed. Like every single person in this group, I say it all the time and they laugh at me, but every single person is smarter than me. I have learned more from these people than I've learned from any boss that I've been under. And it quickly was like, oh, I never give myself credit. So I'm like, I lost my job. That probably makes sense. But all these other people lost their job and like they have PhDs and they've been working for the same company for 15 years. And I kind of realized how big of a deal this was right now in this time. And all these people have either had 1, 2, 3, some people have had 5 layoffs, and they're starting to feel really bad about themselves, which is
they're not feeling, they're not feeling remarkable.
No.
And you were vulnerable enough and uniquely confident enough. And I don't even know if you realize that, but uniquely confident enough to say, this is how I'm feeling. Is anyone else? This is you on the playground again, standing up to the bullies.
Yeah.
Is anyone else getting bullied? Because guess what? G is here and I got your back. In fact, I'm going to stand in front of you and protect you.
Yeah.
I got your back.
Yeah, I'm good at throwing myself under the bus. I'm like, this happened to me. Has it happened to anyone else?
Yeah. And thank you for being you and for being like that. Whenever I talk, I share different things about me personally. And I have panic attacks and I have anxiety ever since a real bad, I had a bad out-of-body experience for surgery when I was like 12 years old. So I talk about it and I share with people, these are my happy pills. My son gave this to me. You can see it in here. I wear it every single day. And if I need them, that's where I go and I can do anything now. But I share that vulnerability because I want people to know, I can speak in front of 4,000 people, but I might feel a little anxious if I'm driving through a tunnel by myself. I might feel a little anxious. I'm in the back of a grocery store and I don't know anybody, like just the weirdest things, but I share that. I'm trying to be vulnerable because I believe it will help other people. Kudos to you, G,
Thank
for
you.
doing that.
Yeah, I
Kudos
think
for you.
I have never, I have a hard time when people say that they're an expert in something, but I love it when people share from their own personal experience. And so I'm always somebody that will share from my experience. And unless I've experienced something and really went through it, I don't consider myself to be any better than you, or like know more than you, just because I either have a degree or I have this. It's like, I operate in this way of like, whatever you're offering to me is very important and I want to hear it and whatever. And I think the more vulnerable people can be and the more open to conversations everybody can be, it just stupid, but like makes everything better, makes everything healthier. It makes everything more human. Like it's just, that's what we are. So I kind of try to operate that way.
You are now taking control of your life. You are not waiting for another organization to say, Giovanna, you're nice, but we don't have a need for you. You are not waiting for that anymore. You are dictating, you are deliberating your day, you're deliberating your life. A lot of people can't do that. Downstairs, when I was working, getting prepared for this conversation, because now I know you so well, doing all the research. I'm just kidding. When I was doing work downstairs, there was a gentleman that was working, and then his friends came by and they were talking, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? All these things. And then he said, I have an interview today. And they're just like, what? It's the day before Thanksgiving. I have an interview today. And they're just like, why? Well, I wasn't sure if I wanted it or not, but I just thought, what the heck? Let me just talk to this new company. So there he is. It's loud downstairs. He doesn't have an external microphone like this, so you can hear everything. He's just wearing his AirPods. And he's going through this interview like he's talking to his best friend. No pressure. Let me just, I'm like, are you kidding me? It's probably loud. They probably can't even hear you. But that was his approach. Now, granted, he is working for another company, and this was another opportunity to talk about something else. But in my mind, this is what it shared with me, G. It shared, and I've heard this from a lot of different people. If you are unhappy what you are doing for work, get another job. Bear with me.
Right.
If you're unhappy with where you live, move. If you're unhappy with how companies are treating you, start your own company. Because what's the worst that will happen? Gee, if you ever run out of money and you need a place to live, I have friends in Charleston, South Carolina. You can stay with me and my wife and my son. Okay.
Yeah.
What is the worst that's going to happen? What is the worst that is going to happen? And sadly, I had one more story. I know I'm not letting you talk, but I just want to.
No, this is good. This is good.
Enough of this, and I think, and then we're going to share this with your Rhize community.
Yeah.
Almost to the day, I had a massive heart attack 6 years ago. I am here, and I believe that the stress associated with, and this was right before the pandemic, there was a lot of cultural changes within the company I was working for. I believe that led to my heart attack. After I recovered, it was just normal routine, no surgery, but upon recovery, bad stuff happened, but I'm here. What I share with people, and if I present in front of audiences, I will often share the blue screen of death as a surprise. You know, when your computer crashes, you know what that looks like?
Yeah.
I will share that as a surprise. And then the message after that is, Giovanna, don't wait. You don't know when your computer's going to crash. You don't know when you're going to get that phone call Thursday before, Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Tuesday before Christmas. But you don't know when you're going to get those things.
Yeah.
So you can control your attitude. You can control your thoughts. You can control what you're doing with your time, but don't wait. You should not spend another second feeling bad when you can do something about it. Gee. And I'm telling this to you, thus telling it to your Rhize community. Do you agree?
It's interesting because it's a scary thing. And I've had other, and this is kind of what we talked about in Rhize. Your job is not the only thing in your life. Could be 10 other things going wrong in your life, but your job is allowing you financial stability, or it's giving you something to do. And then when that goes away, that's not the only problem you have, right? And it's a very scary thing to have this feeling of I don't know where my money is going to come from. I don't know and then to have to wait for someone else to make that decision for you, but then give you the worst feedback, or they're not even telling you anything, and they're not understanding. When you're talking about that man in the coffee shop and he's so casual and so whatever, I would freak out before every interview I had, because I'd be like, if I get this job, then I will be making money. It was life and death, to be dramatic. But until I was at the lowest point in my life. So I feel for me, it makes sense, right? But I think, it's hard to get there. And I'm not saying everybody has to get to the lowest point in their life before they find out what's for them, but it is you have to find a way to be in control of something. You're in control of nothing, though. That we talk about that in Rhize all the time. You're not in control of anything, and you also have to learn how to just be. But I think, there's a lot more to life. And I think I have a different approach now because of what happened professionally and then just life. And I like to lean into this. This is something I like doing. I like helping people. It's been an interesting journey for me.
Of course.
But here we are.
When you said a job is not life and death.
But it can be.
It feels like it, but you know what life and death are? When you feel life and when you've experienced almost death.
Yeah. Right.
What life and death are? It's life and death.
Yeah.
And while you are living, you realize. So I'm going to share a couple of things. You were talking about not feeling like you're accomplishing anything, and everything else is happening to you, not necessarily for you. I found when I started my company, and to this day, I do a tremendous amount of folding laundry and emptying and stacking the dishwasher, because those are two things that I can control.
Yeah.
And I'm getting something done. Since my heart attack, I have not had a drink of alcohol. No one told me that I shouldn't be drinking alcohol. No one told me that. The doctors didn't tell me I didn't have a problem. I was only drunk probably once in my life. But I decided that that is another thing that I can control. So I want to share this with you, G, and hopefully we will share this with your community if helpful.
Yeah.
There was a study done that said the average person has something like 60,000 thoughts that go through their mind every single day. Have you heard this?
Yeah, I talked about this in Rhize, but yeah, keep going.
Well, no, in a massive amount of them are repetitive. Something like 95% are repetitive. I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do, and then some number like 80% or so, they're negative thoughts. So right now, how am I doing on time? We're at 31 minutes. What are my negative thoughts? Well, my face is getting ready because I'm wearing a sweater and there's not a whole lot, but can I take off my sweater while we're talking? And is that going to look silly? And I can only hear you out of one earpiece. Is that okay? And should I be scrolling the ticker a little bit more? All of these things don't matter, the negative thoughts. And what I have been teaching people, because someone taught this to me, write down those negative thoughts. Write them down. And at the end of the day, and I have G for good thoughts under tab, B for bad thoughts. At the end of the day, look through them. Were any of the bad thoughts really that bad? So I got a little flustered and a little red, and we went over, and I could only, who cares? Does that matter?
No.
No, it doesn't matter. I have an opportunity for December 9th, and a virtual opportunity with a great company. I sent them a note. I haven't heard back yet from them. Oh no, gee, I haven't heard back from them. Oh goodness, what's going to happen? It's the day before Thanksgiving. Are you kidding me? Now, granted, they sent me a note at 11:30 p.m. last night. They were thinking about me. If I get it, I get it. If I don't get it, I'm going to get something else. It's not life or death. And that's hard. That's hard for a younger person to think about. That's hard. It is. But I think that's, the value of someone with gray hair like me, not you, that can share. I've been through it. And gee, you've been through it. Not from a year's perspective, but from a time's perspective. Okay.
Yeah. I like so going off that, I have a few things I want to say. The thoughts, right? That's something I'm working on. I have been connected with through one of my leadership team members at Rhize, connected me to her life coach, and he's awesome. And I've never had a life coach, but I trust her, and he's great. And it's for I'm in therapy, but this is more business and life. And he had me do this thing where we realized 90-something% of my thoughts are self-judgment thoughts. And he was like, anytime you get a thought where you're judging yourself, just say out loud self-judgment. I'm like, all right, cool. So he tells me to do this at 4 p.m. on a Thursday. From 4 p.m. on a Thursday till noon the next day, I was blown away with how every single thought of mine was self-judgment, to the point where I labeled every single thought to the point where my mind was clear, because all of the thoughts had exited my head. And I was like, what do I think about now? And I was like, do I sing songs in my head? That's how many negative thoughts I was processing, judging myself. And so that opened my eyes to a lot. And we've had a lot of sessions since then. And I'm learning how to, use my mind for positive instead of negative, which has been great. And I think in terms of I make a lot of jokes. I'm a dark humor kind of girl. And I've always said, and it's been a joke, but it's true, right? The only guarantee in life is death. And that's it. You're born and you die. And whatever happens in between, you just got to make it the best for you and what's going to happen for you. And, there's certain experiences in life that you go through that everybody goes through, and good, bad, and they can change your perspective on life and death, and that's what you need to look for, is the things in your life that shift your perspective, even if it's not life and death. And I think I've had a few of those, and my perspective has changed on how I want to operate in this world while I'm here. if that makes sense.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
In all of this thinking,
Mhm.
your perception would not have changed unless you had gone through this challenge, and this challenge.
Yeah.
And look at the community that you have, 3,000 people and growing. I just signed up 3,001. After this goes out, we're going to have 3,000. We're going to have 18,000 after this.
I
Top
hope
2%
so.
podcast in the world. This is going to go out to a lot of people. Gee, it really
Good.
will.
Yeah.
But it is remarkable what you're doing. And for the last couple of moments, so this was about you and about conversations.
Mhm.
This has helped me give a different perspective. I've learned things from you. Thank you very much. And this is what the other people, and I'm not going to say experts, but the other individuals within your community are helping to share. I found this resource. I saw this quote. I watched this video. I've been through this. You will be okay. All of these different things. So if individuals would like to, what I'm so surprised with right now, that rhisetogether.com, it is free.
Yeah.
Can you walk through what people should, where they should go and what they have access to, talking about the community? Because I want as many people that need positivity, that need a community, to sign up immediately. What should they do?
Yeah, so if you go to rhisetogether.com, RHIZE, it was inspired by a rhizome, which I can explain later, but rhisetogether.com/join Rhize, you can join the community. It's free and will always be free for members. That's never going to change. 10 years down the road, it's going to be free. I don't believe in capitalizing on people who are struggling. That's like a personal, moral thing inside of me. And there's so much information out there. You want to go to a trusted space, right? And this community has become a trusted space where people share resources that work for them, that don't work for them. They're sharing true experiences of the job market. They're sharing true things in their industry. And it's become this safe space to open up conversation on what's really going on in the job market, but from a applying for jobs and like the logistics, but also an emotional sense. Like we have calls almost every day of the week. We have networking calls that are open to everyone in the community. They're also free. So I host one a week, but we have community members hosting. We have workshops hosted by other outside people, and they come in and you can just join and participate. We've done a lot of calls, like to give you an example, we've done a lot of calls right now because we're about to enter the holiday season. Big struggle for unemployed people is going home for the holidays and having to explain to your family and friends that you see once a year what you're doing. And then everyone, well, are you networking? Well, are you doing this? And just the stress that comes with that can really, it can make or break your mindset. So we have a lot of calls about the emotional side of job hunting. We have all these resources right now. The conversation is in Slack. And so there's a lot of resources pinned there. We're building out a member dashboard so that when you log into the website, there's going to be all of the resources there for you. We're going to build a database. This is just growing in a way to make it easier for people to function within the community with the resources. Like I said, everything's going to be free forever. It's hard for me. And I've had people like, well, if you charge everyone $5, I'm like, I just can't, because it's not about that. It's about the fact that these people are coming together and growing. We have people like teaching skills. We have all these,
Yeah, and that's why I said yes to this. G, because you're doing good, and this will be celebrated to tons and tons and tons of people.
Yeah, I hope
so yeah, without a doubt, it will. Without a doubt, it will. And it just reminds me, we did an event 2 years ago about this time of year in December, because people struggle during the holiday season with different things. We did an event called Choose Happy. And Choose Happy was my perception, and I brought in about 3 or 4 other speaker friends that gave their opinion on, you can walk on the sunny side of the street or you can walk on the shady side of the street. So my friend Kelly Bishop shares that, and she picks positive. She chooses to walk on the sunny side of the street. So I think that there's a great need, especially during the holiday season, to think about resources, to think about helping each other and how to handle situations that might be uncomfortable. Well done.
And real ways to do it, right? Like kind of what you said, it's like you make that choice, shady or sunny, and there's problems. People have problems, and people have things they need to talk about, but we call it productive venting. You can share your experience, and then you allow the people in the call to be like, okay, I hear what you said. What if you tried it this way? So that it's not just like a complain fest. We want to productively get beyond this, but there is a safe space to have your complaints. And I think that's how we've always operated within Rhize. It's like you can get your true feelings out, but somebody will be there to catch you before you vent too much, and then it turns into too much negativity. You know what I mean?
Right. Of course.
Yeah,
Of
it's
course.
good. We're trying to change that mindset. So
Fantastic. Before we give out your contact details, I do like to ask my guests to complete the sentence. The name of the podcast is Most People Don't, But You Do. The name of the book is Most People Don't. The name of my company is Most People Don't. How would you fill in the blank? Most people don't blank.
like about myself?
No, just in general. There's no right or wrong answer. How would you fill in the blank? Most people don't blank.
I would say most people don't believe in themselves enough.
Yeah. Ideal. And you are helping Rhize together, Rhize, R-H-I-Z-E, are helping people remember that they are remarkable, that they are not redundant, that they should believe in themselves, because you can do anything that you want to. Just look at Giovanna Ventola. Just look at you. If people would like to learn more, again, Rhize is spelled R-H-I-Z-E. Where should we direct them to?
The website, rhisetogether.com. My email is hello@rhisetogether.com. I answer that email. So if anyone wants to reach out, I would say I'm on TikTok, Giovanna Ventola. So, but it's Giovanna.Ventola. So make sure there's the dot in there. That's pretty much it. Or once you get in the community, you can DM me privately. So I'll get any messages. It might take me a day or two to like get back to you, because I get a lot of them, but I try to respond to everybody that reaches out. So
fantastic. Giovanna, cannot thank you enough. Thank you for helping people. Thank you for building this community. Wishing you a very happy Thanksgiving. And please let me know how I continue to help you and to help your members. It's a very important cause. So well done. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
So